Hey guys, welcome back to the video. Welcome back to another episode of MCU Rewatch Review, and today is the finale. So that is right, I have completed watching Spider-Man Far From Home. This is MCU Rewatch episode 20, and this is the end. I rewatched every single Marvel movie. In the beginning, I was vlogging my rewatches, but afterwards I just started doing regular reviews because it took too long and I wanted to get through this, and we're finally done. Yes, it took almost all of 2021, but we're here. It's the end. Stay tuned and hit that subscribe button because my full MCU ranking, my first ranking ever on the channel, will be coming out very soon after this video. But in this video, we're going to be talking about Spider-Man Far From Home. This video isn't going to be the longest video on the channel or anything like that because I've talked about Spider-Man a lot. I literally have a video called Why I'm Scared for Spider-Man No Way Home, Why I Don't Like the MCU Spider-Man. I have a whole video essay on Sam Raimi's Spider-Man. I've made like 20 plus videos on just Spider-Man in the MCU on my channel. So I don't want to talk too much in depth because I feel like I'm going to get sidetracked. But speaking directly about Far From Home, personally, I really did enjoy this movie at first. I saw this movie actually 3 times in theaters, but now, and the more times I rewatch it, I'm less of a fan of it. The reason for this is because the more I rewatch it, the more I realize how bad of a Spider-Man story this movie really is. And I don't want to be super nitpicky, and I don't want to just be super aggressive like a lot of Spider-Man Far From Home haters. And for one, my opinion on Spider-Man Homecoming has changed a lot. You guys have seen in my Spider-Man Homecoming rewatch review, but Spider-Man Far From Home, my opinion still hasn't changed from my recent rewatches. This is probably one of my most, or on the higher scale of most watched MCU movies, but this one just still doesn't really hit for me. It's a great Peter Parker story, and so is Spider-Man Homecoming, but Spider-Man Homecoming is also a great Spider-Man story. It's not just a great Peter Parker story, and that's why I don't really like Far From Home. Number one, there really just aren't stakes at the end of the day, and again, I've mentioned all of this before, so this is a lot of rehashing from my other Spider-Man videos where I talk about the future of the MCU Spider-Man. But nevertheless, I do like this movie in terms of just being a fun rom-com. Like, it's just a good teenage flick, but it's really like Disney Channel-esque, and that's what I don't like about it. It just feels too childish, and Homecoming had childish aspects, but at the end of the day, it's like Peter grew up in that movie. It really felt like he matured, like mentally, physically, like he became really strong. But in this movie, it's like Peter Tingle's really the only like Spider-Man art going on here, and it's not that interesting in my opinion. It's really just not all that. Overall, I would say though, Spider-Man Far From Home is a really funny movie other than like the basic tropes that the Spider-Man movies have in the MCU. It's actually pretty good. It's decently written for a rom-com, but it's just not a good Spider-Man movie, and that's why I don't really like it. It's on the lower end of my Spider-Man movie rankings. But now I kind of want to talk about the ending, specifically obviously the post-credit scene that's going to lead into Spider-Man No Way Home. Personally, I think they're setting up the character from this movie to have a lot of stakes, even though this movie itself didn't have much. I don't want to get into theorizing in this video. If you guys want to check out my Spider-Man No Way Home theories, you can check out my whole video on there because I've made multiple videos on just theories for Spider-Man No Way Home. But back to Far From Home, this movie overall just really doesn't have stakes, and that's why it just feels really light and honestly kind of worthless to me in terms of kind of just honestly having stakes and making me feel engaged in the story. For example, and I've complained about this multiple times before, and I've already, again, I'm just rehashing what I've said before. The final battle is just non-existent when it comes to weight because Happy Hogan takes care of Peter's friends for him. And obviously, you know, Peter's only 16. That's fine. I totally understand. But I don't really care because that still, there's no stakes for me. Peter growing as a person, that does create stakes, but Spider-Man is also a character. And in this movie, he really has no stakes. One example of creating really good stakes is The Amazing Spider-Man 2. Not saying that MJ has to die, but Peter having to balance fighting Green Goblin and saving Gwen Stacy, that would make a lot more sense, and that obviously has more stakes. Just overall, Spider-Man Far From Home is the main reason why I'm not the biggest fan of the MCU Spider-Man. It really ruined a lot of the characterization that the character had in Spider-Man Homecoming. In Spider-Man Homecoming, he learned that he had to work alone and that he can't have everything handed to him, and then he gets Edith, the Iron Spider suit, and he gets just all this other tech. He gets a suit built by Tony Stark or with Tony Stark's technology. People could say he puts together the suit, but it's all using tech from Tony Stark. So that whole like mission learned, or the whole idea that was learned in Homecoming, is completely thrown out the window. So yes, I love Spider-Man Homecoming. I think it's top 3, top 4 Spider-Man movie of all time, live action and animated. But Spider-Man Far From Home is on the lower end of Spider-Man movies in my opinion, just because it doesn't feel like a Spider-Man movie. It feels like a a rom-com for the character of Peter Parker and his comic book supporting cast, but it doesn't feel like a true Spider-Man story. And I think the one area slash like stakes that this movie really does connect me to is the relationship between MJ and Peter, because that's one thing that I was really like engaged in this entire movie. And that's what I'm talking about. There's aspects of this movie that are super interesting with Peter Parker and his personal life, but Spider-Man is just so sidelined in this movie. But also another thing I want to talk about is Mysterio. Mysterio is a god tier MCU villain. I love him so much. I think he was just done dirty. I think he should be in future Spider-Man movies. I think he should be a longer term villain. I think he's actually a great villain. I think Jake Gyllenhaal is perfect as Mysterio. Also, the whole twist is super well done in my opinion. And overall, just the execution for Jake Gyllenhaal's Mysterio was really, really good. When I say he was like misused or and stuff like that, I don't mean that he was bad. I just think that they shouldn't have like kind of hinted to the fact that he was dead or that like they shot him and killed him. Obviously, I think that he should be used more because of how big of a presence he could really have. But yeah, guys, that's it for this episode of MCU Rewatch Review. Again, this was the final episode, and what a journey it's been. A lot of my opinions have changed, and I cannot wait to do an MCU ranking for the first time ever on the channel. Again, expect a full MCU ranking for the first time ever very, very soon, and then expect all of the Spider-Man movies ranked after Spider-Man No Way Home comes out, and then after that, expect another MCU ranked, including Spider-Man No Way Home. But yeah, guys, that's it for this video. If you haven't already checked out any of my other MCU Rewatch Review videos, make sure you click the link in the description down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you soon. Peace.